Oh, hey, it's me.
Hi.
Hello, the gang's all here.
Sorry, guys.
This is weird. So can you only see this much of me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. I respect it. Well, hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
And welcome to Uprooted Live.
With Marco Martinez.
With Marco. So, per usual, if you're listening to this via audio, we are your hosts, Anitra Alexander.
And Vanessa Eli.
And as she said, we have a very special guest in the house. Do you want to introduce yourself to the people?
No, you can introduce me.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. No, Marco, introduce yourself, your name, what you do, where you live, what you like to do for fun.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Marco Martinez, and I'm 33. I'm from Texas. I'm in Aries. I know that matters to some people. Hi. I do a lot of things. I guess I'm a makeup artist. I like doing makeup. I like artistry. But I work at an optometrist's office right now, and I like eating. I like listening to sad 90s music. That's me in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh. Well, there is a lot more to Marco that we're going to unpack because he didn't even hit the surface of who he is.
Yeah, I'm like an onion.
There's literally levels to Marcus Martinez.
Yeah.
So, Marco, what is your Enneagram? Share with the people what your Enneagram is.
Which one is that one? Beth?
Beth, your Enneagram coach?
What am I, 7, right? Right?
Yes.
I don't know what it means. I just know I'm a 7. It's my lucky number.
Oh my gosh. Marco is an enthusiast on the Enneagram.
So explain to me again what that is.
Enthusiasts are very adventure and experience driven people. They they're motivated by filling their cup with experiences and things and people, and
That would explain because I can't not.
Right?
Yeah.
Not literally.
Actually, yeah, that does explain it.
That's
Makes
He
sense.
has a tattoo
Enneagram
on his
7
arm.
tattoo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the nose.
Well, for people who are joining in, we are doing Uprooted Lives in our Relationship Uprooted series. And so as Anitra and I were talking about Relationships Uprooted, just the concept of relationship in general is a very expansive conversation, and we wanted it to be engaging and we wanted it to be relational. And so we actually wanted to bring in people that were a part of our community that we look up to and that we love and that we care for. And we just wanted to have a very unscripted, honest, authentic conversation on relationships. And I'll say my part about why I brought up Marco first, and Anitra can add hers, but I've always looked up to Marco. I think he is a community leader. I think he has a lot of influence, positive influence, in which people gravitate towards him. I feel like he just has this electric energy that makes people want to know him or be in conversation with him. And Margot, feel free to share your story later about just what you're involved in and things like that. But it just seems like so much of what he does in his community, in Bryan College Station, is so much centered around relationships. And I just wanted to have him talk more about what they mean to him and where his mindset or where his view on relationships came from, what motivates him behind that. And also because I've always looked up to Marco. I was a mini makeup artist when I worked with them, and I just looked up to them to learn and to grow. And Marco always was like that advocate, teacher, positive influence that I was able to learn from, feel safe under. And so that's who Marco is to me. That's why I first brought up we should have Marco on. Anitra, of course, was like, of course, but yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know I was gonna.
Yeah, I would definitely have to second a lot of things that Vanessa said. I'm not going to go super deep into it because we all know that I will cry at the drop of a dime. But no, yeah, I definitely consider Marco to be one of my closest best friends. We've been through a lot of stuff together, and we've had, like, I would say, relationships at multiple capacities, just as people, as co-workers, as co-managers, which I feel like, I mean, who's a better team than us? I don't know. But I mean, that also, like, really challenged our relationship in a lot of different ways. And I feel like we've both really grown as artists and as people together. But yeah, I would second everything that Vanessa says. Marco is so incredibly inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he has this awesome way of bringing out the best in people. And like you said, I think that he is super adventurous and just bringing out a different side. I'm a Cancer, so obviously I'm very opposite of these two, these two Aries people. But I feel like, yeah, Marco just has always brought out this confident side in me. I feel like I learned how to speak up for myself and advocate for myself from Marco. And so, yeah, I just feel like Marco has a very unique experience, as we all do. And I think that, as Vanessa said, it's important for us to share these different experiences when it comes to relationships. We can learn so much from each other. So I am so honored and privileged to have Marco on our episode today.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
I'll ask the first question.
Go for it.
These are mostly unscripted, but we have like a series of questions we kind of put that will help frame the full episode.
That are just like off the fly, so I didn't even look at them. So
good. That's gonna make it more authentic. So Marco, and we can all have conversations on it, but just first question starting out is, what were as you grew up, as you're growing up, where did you grow up? What was that experience like? And what was your experience with relationships as you were emerging into a young adult Marco?
Well, I grew up in College Station. It's always just been just my mom, my dad, my sister, and I, so just the four of us. We've never really kept in contact or really messed around with our extended family. It's really always just been like this 4-person unit. My parents are my dad is Texan, but my mom is Mexican, so she moved here when she married my dad. They're still together. They've been together since, it's been like 30 something years. We were close in the sense that it was just the four of us, so I don't really see them as like parents, and I don't talk to them as other people would talk to their parents. They're more like friends or like very older siblings, like way to get brought up. But yeah, it was close in the sense that it was just the four of us. We've never really been like touchy-feely or very like saying I love you through text or in person, but it's like understood, I guess. But yeah, so I think that's a big part of what makes me. So I don't think I'm a very touchy person now, especially in like friendships and relationships. I feel like I have a very unique way of showing people that I care about them, about the way that I'm raised, I guess. And it's funny because I was watching this TikTok last night that made me think of this. It was a TikTok that was talking about how the relationships we have in our 20s are like guided or ruled by our subconscious, which is something that develops when you're like 0 to 7 years old. So a lot of the things that we seek in relationships in our early 20s are based on things that happened to us when we were 0 to 7 years old. So it's a lot of it is tied back to like family relationships. And it made me think that that would be something interesting to bring up because I don't know a whole lot about that, but I thought it was very interesting to like relate what we look for in relationships in our like early 20s to what happened when we were kids. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about that, about how the way I guess I express my care and devotion to someone isn't the same way that other people did, and maybe it's because of the way that I was raised.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Anitra knows about that because she studies youth in her program.
Yes. And for anyone that was wondering why I was laughing so hard, I can totally see how Marco is not a touchy-feely person. And I was laughing for the same reason that Corinthia said in the comments, is when Marco and I always used to work together. It's probably not good because, I mean, consent. But I always used to like hug him and he would just stand there and be like, get off of me. It took forever for him to eventually like, do that pat like a couple of times, like, okay, we're done here. But
Yeah.
that is so funny. I could see how that translates to your friendships. I don't know about romantic relationships, but we might get into that in a second. But I can totally see how that translates into your relationships. What would you say is your relationship status right now if it won't get you in trouble?
No, it's just me. It's just me. I don't know. I just feel like it's not even on my mind right now. It used to be on my because I used to have this like timetable in my head where I wanted to like have engagement. I mean, there's no way. I mean, sometimes I can barely take up if I had another human to look after. So I know the timeline is right. It's on the back burner. I'm focusing on me right now. So I feel like it's not fair to someone else to bring them into this if this isn't somewhat stable, figured out.
I feel that when you were dating, what principles or values would you say guided you as you were dating, and where did those things come from?
Well, I think I valued hard work. People who put in the first person that I think I seriously dated, like in my adult life. He went to cosmetology school. He also went to community college, and he also had a job. And for some reason, that was always just very attractive to me. That he was always on the go. He was always doing something. He always had something to do and something to learn. Um, so I really like that. There's just something kind of attractive about people who put in the effort and the work, I guess, to get to wherever they need to go. So I think that's a big part of it. I think another big part of it too is not having a balance between knowing when to be serious and knowing when to not take yourself so seriously. Because I guess I deal with a lot of things through humor and I like to the one thing that I have that I know I have that I will never be able to get rid of is just a very sharp tongue and sarcastic kind of way of thinking, and that's just kind of how I deal day to day. So I need someone who's gonna be able to like know that that's how I show affection, is little jokes and little stabs and whatever. So someone with a good sense of humor. um, those are really like the two main kind of things. Hard work is important. I learned that from my parents. My parents worked very, very hard to get us to where we are now. Neither of them graduated. Neither of them went to college. My mom graduated high school, and so it was kind of important. That was an important part for me, was watching them work hard every single day, no vacations. About it, they'd be like, "Yeah, we're going on vacation for like 2 weeks during the summer." I was like, I can't remember the last time my parents were not working for 2 weeks. That they would never do that. So I think that's kind of where I got that from, too.
With because I mean, even what you were saying before about it's so interesting because I definitely can see that the needs or the things we need as children, that's what shapes our view on relationships as young people as we start to emerge into ourselves. And that's why me and Anitra were like, oh my gosh, this topic is just so expansive. And yet it seems like everyone wants to talk about relationships because in some capacity, whether it's romantic or friendship or your family, because they are so embedded into like who we are, like what our identity is, and it can, in a positive sense, can help contribute to that. Like I would say both of you have helped contribute to that in a part where in a season where I was very in that gray, you know, who am I, what, in a period of grief, and who am I, what am I capable of, what are my gifts, etc. Like relationships have the ability to pour that out, but then relationships also have the ability to really drain or deplete or
hold you back
from knowing knowing who you are, knowing what your identity is, and like Anitra was saying, having confidence in who you are. And so it's just so interesting, like how, I mean, we can get into it more about like how those ideas form, but it's just so interesting how as we grow into young people and then adults, how we can look back and see how our experiences have been influenced by who we were as children. One of the questions that we were thinking of that we both have been unpacking, because this whole series, The Uprooted Live, really is kind of like the unpack part of the podcast, but we talk about a list. So what did you have, you or Anitra or I, we can all talk about this, but what did we have on our list in terms of what we expected out of people or what we wanted out of a romantic partner, out of our friends? What was on our list whenever you were younger and maybe those identities were forming to now whenever you're more mature, more wiser, and you're able to kind of look back on the past with a little bit more clarity? What were our old expectations of relationships to now?
One thing wasn't probably on my list that I forgot to mention earlier, but what Anitra said kind of reminded me of it, was confidence in someone who's willing to stand up for themselves when they need to. That's a big one, especially in terms of I guess when I was younger, I always used to be like my insecurities would show in the way that I would tell my partner, if you're ever unhappy, you have to tell me. Like, don't lie to me. Don't lead me on. That was one of my biggest fears, was being led on. So I would always let them, if you're feeling some type of way, if you're tired, if you want out, let me be the first. Don't drag me along. And I never understood why that was. So someone who stands up for themselves, who knows what they want and what they need, who's vocal about their like boundaries and their happiness and all that, that's really important too. That's something that probably wouldn't have been on my list when I was younger. I don't know why, but now it's important to find someone, especially now where people are very it's very easy to turn on to like the cancel culture lane, or like people are not really offended, but we're just hyper aware of things. So I think themselves in the workplace or in like platonic relationships or relationships, that's very attractive as well. Someone who knows how to say like, I'm not happy, or I think that's a big thing that wasn't on my list when I was young.
Yeah, even in friendships, having the confidence to be able to hold one another accountable or point something out in one another, it just enriches.
Yeah, and people who know
relationship
catered to makes it that much more attractive. So someone who stands up for themselves or holds you accountable, but knows how to do it in a manner that you won't take offense to it, or that whatever you I guess it all goes back to Mac and management training and learning how to deliver feedback specific towards each person. That kind of seeped into my personal life too, because you have to know, you can't tell one person hey, quit it, because that might set them off. So you have to like cater to every single friend or boss or coworker's style.
Honey, that is gross, because let me tell you, Marco, when we used to have that conversation about addressing people in a way that they're receptive to, he used to be like, they're going to get what they're going to get. And that was always so funny. It was funny to me. No, I love that. I think for me too, when it comes to friends and when it comes to romantic relationships, I think accountability, being able to hold me accountable, was not something that I had on my list. And now it's something that I'm like, I need this in order to help me to like grow and develop. But no, I think I would agree with a lot of the things that Marco said in terms of like boundaries. I don't know why, but just when I was younger, those were things that I never really thought about. And maybe it's because I struggled with it myself. I didn't really have a good concept of like boundaries and being able, like he said, to express and talk about my needs. And a lot of that kind of stemmed from the environment that I was being raised in and how I was being raised in terms of speaking up for myself, advocating for myself, expressing my needs, holding other people accountable, allowing them to hold me accountable. A lot of those things were definitely not on my list. When I was younger, everything was very superficial. Like, I want somebody tall, I want an athlete. Like,
yeah,
it was very much that. And I feel like now, of course, now that I'm older and I'm matured and I'm learning things about myself and I'm in therapy, it's amazing to see how those things have kind of evolved into these deeper concepts. But yeah, I would agree. Vanessa, anything you want to add?
I was actually in a conversation with Sam about this because he was like, oh, you guys are having Marco on. That's awesome. Like, yeah, I'm really excited. And we were talking about just relationships in general. And I think that in younger Vanessa, like maybe teen, younger adult Vanessa, I think that now I really value the diversity in knowing people, like literally like what we're doing right now, and having friends that are across all the spectrum, because I feel like that makes me. Sox is walking in to the room. He wants to see what's going on. He's my dog. Oh Lord, help him. Okay, actually, I'm gonna have Anitra because I need to remove the dog from the room. So I'll have you continue. I'll finish my thought in a second. Be right back.
That's actually an interesting point that she was. I don't know what all her thought was, but I think that's so important too. I feel like that's something that I'm finding is important in general, like across in education, in healthcare, just like having a diversity. Diversity is such a big topic right now. I think one thing I want to add in terms of diversity, like having people across the spectrum, I've really started to appreciate and I really honor diversity of thought. Mm-hmm. That is something that I feel like has really helped me to grow. Like, I feel like growing up, I always wanted people in my circle that thought like me.
But affirm things you already.
Yes, literally just reaffirming things that I already feel. But I always wanted people that thought like me, that had the same beliefs as me, that had the same opinions as me. And I feel like there's so much more growth in having a group of people around you that think differently, that are able to challenge your thoughts so that you can grow and that you can expand.
That's what I was going to say. Thanks for finishing with that. Yeah, I just think that now I can see just the value. I can look back and see, because I feel like my relationships that I have with people are such a melting pot from like all over, and I really value that. Whereas I think as a teenager or going into college, I used to think that like-mindedness, like what you were saying, affirming thought or affirming belief was helpful to hold you accountable. But really, friendship is so much deeper, and you understand humanity more whenever you're able, and you understand yourself more, and your own beliefs are able to become more concrete when you are with people that come from so many different backgrounds and cultures and viewpoints. And I really, really have appreciated that as I look back at just the people, even whenever we're like, who should we have on our podcast, like on Uprooted Live, like, wow, like who's a part of our community? Like these people are really different. And I'm really thankful that we are able to have that community. I see a lot of value in it.
Yeah, the go along to get along can be kind of dangerous when you start to that's the for your life, when you just kind of don't challenge people. I mean, people, some of my friends believe radically different things than I believe when it comes to just, um, every part of relationships and religion and theology and all sorts of things. Um, there's no harm, people can believe what they want to believe, and as long as they're not harming themselves or harming others, and I'll explore that idea. And it's better if they're open to their own ideas being challenged, because I'm a very curious person. So if someone believes something, whether again it's in terms of a relationship, or let's say someone says, I think that polyamorous relationships are the best. I don't see it that way, so I'll be like, really, go on, tell me how explain it. Or religion or theology or beliefs or spirituality. It's great that you believe that. I don't, but tell me why you believe that. Go into it. But I'm just trying to understand. And
Because
I think when people are open to having that discussion and not necessarily proving themselves, just educating.
Yes. Because if you didn't have actual relationships with people, you wouldn't be able to say, oh, really, tell me more. Like that wall automatically gets cut off. You just don't have, you're not accessible to somebody like that. And so it's a privilege. It's also a responsibility, I think, too, to care for people that you are in circles with who come from different backgrounds. And it's a privilege because you get to tap into just life and experiences, and you get to become so much more wiser in the human experience. But I think there's also a responsibility there in taking care of their heart and taking care of, like Anitra was saying, boundaries, healthiness, showing up. I think, Mark, what you were saying that earlier about making sure you're right before you can enter into a vulnerable state with someone. So yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Really good. So we're kind of talking about some of the things that we value in terms of people challenging our thoughts and having different thoughts as us, etc. What would you say are some other lessons that your relationships have taught you personally?
Accountability, for one, in terms of I guess seeing myself from outside of myself, because I think all of us obviously have the way that we perceive ourselves in our head, but sometimes when we step outside of ourselves, that's not the way that other people might be seeing us. So that's been a big one for me, especially recently. Things that have happened in my social life have taught me that I don't think I'm very intimidating. If anything, I was like a fly on the wall, like in high school. Very, really quiet, always had my nose in a book. Always would answer, I was afraid to answer questions because I knew the answer, but then I was afraid people were going to pick on me for knowing the answer. And I think I'm still am that person in new situations or around new people. So if I'm around a crowd of people I don't know, I will kind of just be the fly on the wall. And I didn't realize that comes off to some people, a lot of people actually, as defensive or unapproachable or intimidating. And 90% of the close to now that are my friends have told me, once we are friends, you were so unapproachable when I first met you, and you were so intimidating. And recently I've become more conscious of that, of not being that way, of wanting to be more inviting, and if someone wants to come up to me and say, hey, what's up, or if they need something from me or whatever, I want to make sure that I'm more open and accessible. So kind of the self perspective thing has been something that my friends and working relationships with my side hustle management has really taught me, is that other people might not always see me the way that I see myself. So I need to be a little bit more aware of I can't control perception and I can't control how people see me, but I can control the things that I do. And I think that's something that I'm working on a lot, is just making sure that I am smile more and I'm more friendly and I'm more open. And because you never know the people, you never know who might need to meet you or who might need you in.
Mm.
I would hate to think that I've missed out on letting people in when they've, needed me in their life.
That's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask you. Well, I wanted you to talk about this more because I personally think it's so, I don't know, I just think it's so inspirational. I think it's so purpose-filled for what you do for your community, for the LGBTQ plus community in Bryan College Station, which is a very underrepresented and it's just an underrepresented community, and more people are able to become leaders and advocates and speak. And I honestly believe that you have been a leader of that. And so I think that that's just so amazing for what you've done. And I wanted you to share a little bit about what you do now, because I think that's just such a platform and influence for not just the people that don't who are underserved or who are not advocated for in the past, and who are getting to have their voice formed and getting confidence in who they are in a community where it could be not the norm. So I wanted you to talk about what you're doing now and how did that start? Where did that come from? Because I think you, to so many people, are that relationship that is such a positive light, like what you were talking about. And I just wanted to ask, what motivated you to do that? What convicted your heart to want to start something like that? And what gave you the confidence to be a leader in your community like that? Because I think that's just so, I feel like it's an honor to know you as a friend. And I just wanted you to speak on it more.
Can you see me getting emo?
I think that one of the biggest mantras that I've had this year, and I can't remember who I heard say this originally. It might have been it was some interview I was watching, and I can't remember where, but they were talking to a person who was in the LGBT community, and they were asking them why they were always so fiercely themselves, which is another really attractive thing in a person, is when someone is unapologetically themselves 100% of the time. I love people who can't help but be themselves. And he said, if you you can't be it if you don't see it. And he was talking about how you don't see a lot of brown LGBT male feminine maybe figures in media. And I thought about that a lot, because growing up here, obviously I wasn't bullied terribly, but it was just hard to find someone else who looked like me or did the things that I wanted to do or that I did. And so if you can't see it, you can't be it. Stuck in my head, and I think it's that partnered with some conversations that I had with other I'm a drag artist, and a lot of my drag friends and I were talking, and they expressing how if you're queer and in high school and College Station and you want to go on a date, where do you go? Where feels safe in a southern conservative agriculture town? Where can you hold your partner's hand? Where can you go to dinner? Where can you show PDA? And we were talking, how great would it be if there was, we helped create a space where, drag is mainly, we facilitate liquor sales for nightclubs. So it's most of the time it's an 18 and plus nighttime club setting where you can't really experience that part of LGBT culture if you're not 18 or older. So we were talking about, we need to find a venue, like a bookstore or a game store, or an LGBT, owned or friendly space where we can have maybe a daytime show where LGBT youth can come and see a drag show, because it's such an important part of the LGBT experience is drag show and drag performers. I mean, we all know about Stonewall, and we all know about what an important role POC, queer people played in the gay rights movement. And people see drag entertainers as superheroes anyways, because, you know, they're tall and you know, the way that we present ourselves. But, you know, we thought the younger people need a place where they can go and experience it and talk to us and see that, hey, there's another, you know, POC who's, you know, feminine and a male and does makeup, and maybe I can do that too. And so we talked about it, and we didn't really get anywhere in terms of like finding that kind of space. But the way life does, some doors closed, and I never thought I was going to be able to perform again and do drag again, which made me really sad. And another door opened, and this venue reached out, and they were really interested in having some sort of drag show. And my friend Jared was the one who knew them and kind of linked me to them. And long story short, it ended up being great because it's a daytime show where there's a lot of just very warm, kind, open-minded entertainers who put on a show. It feels like the biggest comment, which is also the biggest compliment we've received, is that it just feels like a big family barbecue every time we have it. And there's children and there's puppies and there's, you know, the aunts and the uncles come, and it's families. And I think it's finally starting to, it wasn't intentional. I wasn't intentionally trying to do that with a specific project, but I'm glad that that's what it turned into, because it just made me a lot more proud of it. And so now I'm thinking, how big can we make this, and how do we get the word out, and how do we reach those like people who are, like you said, Vanessa, marginalized or not represented, who need to see someone like themselves so that they can, you know, affirm, I can still be who I am and be happy and successful and still live in this town and make a living, or, you know, what have you. So yeah, so that's what we're doing, and I hope we keep doing it for a very long time. The venue's really the superstar here, because they're very it's a very punk bar, like an alternative bar. And when I thought about it, I thought, who were the people that made me feel the most comfortable when I was, you know, growing up gay in Texas? It was you know, POC, it was Black girls, and it was the emo kids and the punk kids who accepted us no matter what, stood up for us. And they told me when we're talking about starting a show there, what's more punk than drag? You know, let's marry both of those together. And you guys have ever seen that picture of Nirvana? So it's like Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love and RuPaul. And like somehow the universe brought them together, and RuPaul is holding Kurt Cobain's daughter, and she's crying. I showed like, that's what we want, a meeting of these two like worlds you wouldn't think would like ever come together. But I mean, they love that. Every time they get that compliment, every time that their patrons, who are alternative kind of artsy punk people, come to one of the drag shows, whenever those patrons tell them, this is so cool, we never would have thought that this would happen here, but we're so cool, we're going to bring our dog next time, we're going to bring our teenagers next time. Yeah, it makes me really happy. Again, it wasn't intentional, but it just, everything kind of fell into place, and it turned into, you know, I think it was like me manifesting, you know, we do need a place where people can go and feel comfortable, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what you believe, or, you know, you can, for that one Sunday afternoon, the only thing that matters, being surrounded by good people, being happy with this show, getting good food in your belly, and that's what it turned into.
It wasn't intentional, but you were available for that to happen. Definitely. And I just think that that's so awesome, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of everyone who's a part of that, because I just think, I mean, I work with youth, I work with kids and youth, and those are conversations. I don't live in Texas anymore, but those are conversations that they're having, and they want a safe place, and their families want to understand, and their parents want to understand. And I think just making it so communal and safe and welcoming, that just feels so purpose driven for what you're doing, and like you having an opportunity and being available to use your story for good. And Anitra and I talk about this a lot, like in Anitra's work that she's doing and the work that I'm doing, we don't want someone younger than us to have to deal with the things that we had to get to the things that we finally are able to break through to receive. And I just think it's really such an amazing sign of just you as a light for your community to be able to do that. And so, but what I heard too in that is that that was able to be made possible through relationships.
Yeah,
Like you had to be available, but that was connected through relationships.
for a relationship. And that's the most exciting part, I think, is the relationships we'll get to build there. Because, I mean, we've only had it twice, but there's already the repeat people who are like, we're going to be here every single time you have it. And those people have children, you know, and those children are young, like 4 or 5. And even though it may not seem that way, I told them, you know, I have a niece who's 6 months, but, you know, if you're raising your kids this way, the fact that my niece is going to be surrounded by your kids when she's growing up, that makes me feel a lot better about
Wow.
grow up. You try to you know, you try to like influence, you know, I obviously am going to try to influence my niece to be very open-minded. And you know, I always tell my sister, you know, you about small things, you know, like pink is for girls and blue is for boys. I always tell her, you know, you may not think about this, but the way I would think about that is, do you want, you know, your kid to be the person who bullied me in high school, or do you want her to be the person who stood up for me in high school? Little ideas are going to affect the way that someone is shaped, but they do. And so I try to have as much influence as I can. But you know, the kids and the teenagers and even the adults who come to the show, I think they really like you said, I think they just appreciate that it's a very it's just laid back the way it should be. There's no judgment. There's no, I mean, it's just people coming together to have fun and express ideas and build relationships, like you said. And I think that's the most exciting part, is getting to meet all these people. Because when you work at a nightclub, you meet very interesting people, but you meet. And so, not to say that there's not altered states at a Sunday brunch show, but getting to meet them in the daylight with their families, and you know, I think that's I think I prefer meeting them that way and having conversations with them. And yeah.
I think that's so awesome, and I love the whole aspect of community. I feel like community is just like my thing. It's just community. No, it's been really amazing hearing about what you're doing and seeing it, because I was telling Vanessa the other night after we got off of our little FaceTime that I recall a time when we worked at Mac and you talked about like you wanting to create this space for teens and children, and for children to have that representation. And you shared with me an idea that I'm not going to share online because, you know, I don't know if that's something you're still thinking about doing. We could talk about it as a sidebar, but it's awesome to kind of see you after your experience that you had and thinking that you will never do drag again, and being able to find that community and build that community and create that community where you can feel safe, and also other people that, like Vanessa said, are underrepresented feel safe, I think is so, again, inspiring. I feel like that's just your word. That's just who you are. You're inspiring. Another thing that I want to ask you about, another community that you have fostered and created, is your drag family, the Piranhas. And I want to talk about how that community came to be and kind of what inspired you to create that community as well.
The short story is that it was for a lot of people. So in drag, there's like drag houses, right? So it's very prominent if you've ever seen like Paris is Burning, that movie about like the ballroom scene in New York in the 80s. When you started, you know, drag, you wanted to be a part of a house, which was a family, a chosen family. Because back then, I mean, even now, not everybody in your, you know, blood family accepts who you are, supports you. So you had to go to a house, and they were named after, you know, fashion houses in the 80s. So the House of Chanel or the House of Dior or whatever. And they were your chosen family. And there was a drag mother who was like the head, or a drag father who was the head of the house, who was, you know, the example, the leader, the one who stood up for everyone. And so whenever I started doing drag, I got into it because it was just a really fun way to express myself, and there was a lot of satisfaction in it was really cool that you could bring to life this image of yourself that you have in your head. I thought that was so cool that I could think of like the way I wanted to be seen that night, and then through makeup and artistry and transformation, I could make it happen. So then other people started to come up to me like they do, and they're like, I really like you, I like your style, I like your vibe. And it became clear to me that for me at least, it wasn't so much about the drag, it was more about creating a family. And all the people who were kind of around me and are still around me aren't necessarily around me because they do drag or they have any interest in that. They're all drag fans, but more importantly, it's a family. And because of the relationship that I have with my parents, I can't always come home and tell them, you know, I had a really good show, or like, look at this really awesome, you know, makeup I did on myself. So they're the family that I can go to and be like, look at how great I look this day, or look at what I did, or look at how great this show was. Or so I think that for me, you know, it's a lot more about the family aspect and the relationship aspect of it than it is really about drag. But that's how it came about. I just met them at the bar, and they came up to me and they were like, you know, my friend Chai, I think, came up to me and he's like, you know, if I was a prawn, I'd know what my name would be already. You know, and here we are like 8 or 9 years later, and he's my best friend. And again, it wasn't even necessarily about the drag. It's not about the drag anymore. It's just about finding people who are like you, but unlike you, and hold you accountable, and that you can learn from. And he's one of the main sources of inspiration that I'm kind of leaning on in this journey, to be more open and more welcoming and more less intimidating, because he's one of those people that you can put in a room of strangers and in 5 minutes have like 10 best friends. And
100%.
Yeah, I admire him a lot, and so I'm taking a lot of inspiration from him in this journey to be more open and available to people. And my friend Corinthia Lynn was alone at the bar, and I think she got stood up. I think someone was supposed to meet her at the bar, and she was standing alone at the bar, and I was in drag getting a drink at the bar, and I turned to her and I was like, hey, what's up? And she's like, hey. I was like, who are you here with? And she's like, no one, my friend stood me up. And I was like, you're with me now. And here we are 5 years later, talking. And so it's more like the family aspect, I think. And RuPaul said that famously. He said, we're lucky because gay people get to choose our families. So it's just being able to surround yourself with people who are going to bring you up, who aren't toxic, who are going to challenge you and hold you accountable, and really just be your biggest cheerleaders. And I always tell people that even if they don't have my last name in drag, I always, you know, I think one of my friends told me recently, after this whole debacle that happened at my workplace in drag, you know, they told me, you know, you sometimes you are painted out to be this person in the community who's, you know, because of my humor and because of my, you know, insult comedy and that kind of thing, you're painted out to be this villain and this and, you know, this negative person who has to put other people down to make yourself feel better. But they were like, you know, the way I see it, you've always just been a champion for all of us, and you've been a cheerleader for the people who aren't, you know, necessarily represented, the people whose names aren't in lights. And that's what I try to be. I just try to, you know, I didn't necessarily have that when I was starting out. Then again, when I was starting out, I think I could, you know, count on one hand how many people were like drag artists in this town. And now I could throw a rock and hit like 50 people who do it. So I think it's important to, like you were saying, I think it's important to give other people what they need to succeed that we didn't have when, you know, we were coming.
And what I love, I think Anitra might be, oh, you're back. You could have someone who is needing relationship, or maybe just wanting community, or is inspired by the art that you guys are doing, and there's the welcome factor, but then there's also kind of like a confidence emergence. Like, they get to practice artistry and performance and unlock a different level of confidence and just affirm who they are. And the fact that you do that so welcomingly and so openly is really what inspires me about you, because I think that, and I know that like in the drag community and just in performance in general, it's very easy to make it about yourself or about your image or your platform or your social media or whatever. But the fact that I feel like you guys have always been so postured about bringing in people and developing them into themselves, like that's just been so, as someone who does not do drag but who loves it and encourages it and cheerleads for it, I'm like, wow, that is so sweet and so powerful that there are people that do that and are postured to others in such a selfless way. And then it's attractional, so that other people want to do that too. And so I just think that that's awesome and amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people take offense that drag is becoming so mainstream, but because it is so attractional, I feel like it's a really great thing that people are now not just discovering but accepting that it is. I mean, it's an art form that's been around for so long, but for the longest time, it was. I think people painted drag artists out to be these like monsters and to be, you know, negative things. But I think now RuPaul always ends his show saying, "If you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else?" I think that's a really part of drag is like when you're helping someone in drag kind of find who they are. I think you're also kind of helping them with that relationship with themselves. I think if you, I mean, all drag is knowing yourself well enough to make yourself look on the outside however you're feeling that day on the inside. I think that's really cool, helping someone else, foster that relationship with themselves so that they can be more successful in drag. And it's not even just drag; it's artistry. That's what I love about artistry is the transformative kind of piece of it. Is you're helping someone attain a goal, and that goal is looking on the outside, reflecting on the outside how they're feeling or how they want to be seen on the inside. I think that's really powerful, and it's kind of a shame that it's all been reduced down to influencers and very commercial things now. But that's the part of it for me that keeps me going, is the whole you know helping someone break through and have that confidence and see themselves the way that they see themselves in their head. I love that.
I love that you mentioned that, because I feel like that's one relationship that we haven't really talked about this whole time, is the relationship with self, because I feel like that's so important. And I feel like that impacts everything, right? How we engage in relationships with other people, with our parents, with our friends, how we engage with people at work, etc. So I love the fact that you encourage other people to have this healthy vision and relationship with themselves and this confidence. How do you feel like you got to that place with your relationship with yourself?
Drag helped a lot. Being able to, I guess, like push my boundaries, because like I said, I think I am, and Lynn said it too. I think I'm like an introvert dressed as an extrovert. RuPaul introvert. So I think when I first started doing it, obviously it took a lot for me, being from this small conservative town, to walk out of the house with heels and a wig on and lipstick on and go to a public place. And then from there on, it's just been me challenging myself more and more. Can I love emceeing and I love hosting, and I think of myself as like an insult comic, and I'm not really a dancer, and I can't do splits, I can't do any of that. And a lot of people have told me, I don't come to your shows to see you perform, because that's not like the best thing you do. I come for the 45 seconds in between numbers when you're on the microphone and you're talking to people. That's what I come for. And so I guess that's another relationship thing that I can talk about too, is I love hosting and I love being able to just make people laugh on the spot, strangers, going up to them and making fun of myself first, and then poking fun at them, and then making them laugh, and then making them feel comfortable that they're there. That's what I do best, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. And I wouldn't have discovered that if I didn't start drag, if I didn't start leaving the house with a little bit of makeup on. And then after I was comfortable with that, pushing myself even more and saying, okay, what more can I do? Being on a stage, performing, lip syncing. After that, pushing myself even further and being like, okay, what else can you do? And then finally landing behind a microphone and realizing that I have this knack, which it really is just some people, you either have it or you don't. Of just being put in front of a room full of people, of drunk people, and being like, they're here to see you. Learning that I could do that, learning that I could kind of build those really quick, fast relationships with people, earn their trust. I love that, but that's how it came. I think that's how a lot of the learning about myself comes through artistry and drag, and the relationships that I make through artistry and through drag. That's how I'm on this journey now, to try to be more open and more approachable. It wouldn't have happened if people wouldn't have held me accountable or told me that, and yeah, it plays a big part. But it makes sense because the person that I am in drag, I guess, is really inside of me now. It's just, it's a different kind of layer to me.
So good. Okay, we can maybe ask one more question, because I'm sure Marco is like, how many more? We could literally go all day. Literally all day. Vanessa, what's the last question you want to ask? I have an idea of what the last one I would like to be, but what do you want to ask?
I think I would ask, who have been some of the most influential relationships to you personally?
And if
that
you don't
gave
say
you
us, you're in trouble. No, I'm just
kidding. That gave you the confidence to do that. Like, who were those people that gave you the confidence, maybe whenever you were leading the charge, years ago, and also now as I know you mentioned Chai too, that he inspires you and holds you accountable, but who are those people that you find to be the most influential?
Yeah, I mean, friends or family like Chai and my best friend Alex, they are, I find that most of the people that I surround myself with, my friend Stacy, they're just unapologetically themselves 100% of the time. They do not know how to be anyone else. And that in and of itself is healthy to have around you, because it again makes you question, am I being my authentic self? Am I putting on why am I doing that? How can I fix it? So I think that surrounding yourself with people like that, again, is key. They inspire me all the time. Alex is the same way. He's very much, if you ask him, a question that maybe some other people would find shame in admitting, he's like, yeah, and that's so refreshing to find someone who's so open and honest about who they are and what they've done and how it helped them get to where they are. But definitely that. Definitely everyone that I worked with at Mac. That was the first time that I've ever worked in like a team setting where I don't know, it was such a vibe. Like the whole team and the whole like bracket of time that I worked there, it was just filled with people who were just, I think all of us were, I know all of us were meant to be there at that time around each other for a specific purpose. But there was just such like a synergy, but also, it was just such a learning experience for all of us. I think I learned a lot working with you guys, and I learned a lot about how to better myself in terms of like leadership, and in terms of there's a lot of things that I apply now to my life that I hate to say it, but I learned there, and they make so much sense. See it, say it. I say that all the time in where I work now. It's so important, even in like friendships. I guess that's one of my like boundaries that I make sure I tell my friends are very, very clear. Don't come up to me and be like, you remember that thing you said to me 3 months ago? That was really hurtful. I'm like, no, I don't remember what I had for 2 days ago. So just speak up in the moment and be like, hey, I didn't really like that, or hey, that really inspired me, or I think it just makes it a lot more impactful whenever you speak up in the moment. It's weird how much I've applied that, how many different places I apply that, but I literally apply that everywhere. and again, just like learning how to form your feedback to someone, or your words to someone in a way that they'll be the most receptive to. I learned that working around you guys. And again, I think the whole self-perception, that was something else that was a really big thing that I learned working around you guys, was the way that you think you're presenting yourself isn't always the way that you're coming off. And it made me very aware of it made me very aware of who I needed to be while I was at work. And so, yeah, but I think there's only been a few times in my life where I can say that, like, the people I was around, and the timing of what happened was like a big formative part of who I am. One of those times is when I lived in Washington. Another one of those times was my time at Mac. And I think I'm still living through one of those times with all of my friends and my family now. Yeah, just like you guys said, I mean, I have to brag on you guys a little bit too. I've learned a lot from both of you while we work together, and even now afterwards. It's we can be polar opposites in certain certain aspects of our lives, but it's the thing that radiates the most is our similarities, and our like need to like express ourselves, and our needs to grow, and our needs to be each other's cheerleaders, and to keep pushing ourselves. So yeah, you guys are definitely part of those people who have inspired me and still inspire me to just keep learning and growing and be a better me. Yeah, I think it's the people who influence me the most are the people who I could go 6 months without talking to, and it's like that's when I know that it's a connection that, you know, I've nurtured enough to where we don't necessarily have to talk every day. We don't have to, you know, sometimes it's not possible. We're so busy. We have so many things going on, but those are the people I think who I take the most pointers from and inspiration from, like you guys.
I love you.
I love both of you.
I love you guys.
I know. That was so amazing. Okay, we're still in live. Thank you so No, for real. Thank you so much for coming on and being vulnerable with us and open with us, transparent, sharing. I feel like I've learned so much just from talking to you, literally just in this literal hour and 4 minutes. But yeah, I hope that everyone enjoyed it. Let us know your guys' thoughts on like the questions that we're asking. If there's any other questions that you want to hear us ask. Our future guests, we do plan on having more guests over the summer. I'm so excited to hear from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different relationship statuses. Really thrilled about learning from people. But again, thank you so much, Marco, aka Nirvana. It has been a pleasure and honor learning with you, learning from you. Vanessa.
And continuing.
Yeah.
And continuing to learn from you.
Always.
Even though we're 1,200 miles away, I think that's awesome, just like what you said. And that's the power of relationships too. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. We will upload this to our Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions, please comment below in the upload of this video, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.